Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. We're just a couple of curious people interested in friendship, ideas, and personal development. This is a show that strives to speak to the curious, to those who long to explore new ways of thinking, reflecting, and being. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and interests, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Tracy. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
I actually am great too. The sun was shining. I was happy about that, even though it was freezing.
I'm pretty sure that gopher saw his shadow, but we're going to ignore that for a bit. Speaking of, last week when the show posted, when it aired, February 1st and 2nd, was the start of Imbolc, one of the cycles that we talked about. Have you started noticing, I mean, it's only been a week, but have you started noticing cycles in your own life, or have you made any plans to implement what we talked about?
So as far as noticing any cycles, not really, not yet, but I was intentional on Imbolc and took a candle and put some oil on it, and I put rosemary and basil, and then I let it burn all the way down. And so it just felt like a very traditional way to honor Imbolc. And then on February 2nd, it's our youngest birthday. So we had a celebration.
More candles.
Exactly. So it was kind of cool. And I made chai spice snickerdoodle cookies.
Fun.
That felt really good and traditional and honoring for both our son and for Imbolc. So that was kind of cool.
Wow, you really dove in with intention.
Well, I wouldn't say I dove in, but I certainly put my feet in the water and splashed around a bit.
A little bit better than me. I mean, for the most part, I really embrace that idea of what I was talking about I feel like hibernating, just going by the season, maybe not the cycle of the wheel of the year, but this time of year. I just feel like going inward and just kind of staying. But I did plant kind of some visual seeds, which I think is kind of in line with what you want to talk about today.
Yeah. I know. I love talking about the cycles and the wheel of the year too. It just helps so much. And I love it that you talk about planting visual seeds, or wait, what did you say? Not visual seeds. Yeah, visual seeds.
You nailed it.
Visual, because we indeed are talking about visualization and vision boards today. And I think, with any of the things that we talk about, they're tools for your spiritual toolkit. Take what you want, leave the rest. Whatever resonates, we're happy with that.
These are all the things we're trying out too, so we're right there with you. We might talk about, again, you might hear us talk about how, whoops, we dropped the ball on this one, but we're kind of feeling it, or no, we're going to completely let it go. It didn't fit for us. So everything we talk about is meant to add value to who you want to be in this world and how you want to shine bright. And so I'm appreciating that you're going to take us on this journey today, because this is a tool I think I've used.
Right.
So we'll get more into that later.
Well, honestly, I think some people, when they hear visualization, are you going to visualize this? It can be daunting, but I would say if you daydream, you're almost there. I think that as kids, we visualize the heck out of our lives, right? We daydreamed all the time. But I'm going to start with the easier portion of the show with vision boards. And I wanted to ask you, Tracy, if you've ever used vision boards.
So I want to say yes. I might be getting a little too nuanced with your question. So I'll say I have made vision boards. Have I used them? I don't think I could say that I don't want to say doing it right, because there's no right or wrong, but I don't think I've been doing it to its full power or effect. So I'm excited that you're going to share some ideas today and how to incorporate this into how to use it to manifest or create what we want in the world. Right.
Yeah. I think it's really great that you could say that though, Tracy, because I think that a lot of us do things. We create goals, we write goals down. Maybe we only think goals up in our head, and then tra la la, like you said, maybe I've created it, but have I used it? So that is really important. And I'll just say for myself that I have created vision boards before and then maybe used them for a while. And then all of a sudden they didn't speak to me and then they got tucked away. So once again, it's sort of like affirmations where, hey, if it's not speaking to you anymore, redo it. But first of all, what I wanted to share is how vision boards can help you is it literally is this tangible representation of either a dream or a goal, something that a desired outcome, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I've talked about this before. I have these great big goals and dreams. And then like 3 to 6 weeks into the plan, all of a sudden I've forgotten it. And it's just, I might come across something in a journal and say, what? Why didn't I keep up with that? That looks really good.
It's so easy to get caught up in that day to day and to forget that the overarching goal, and obviously, you might be doing things, little things each day that, lead to that bigger goal. You might have some smaller goals that, but it's just so easy to get stuck in the humdrum everyday life. And then, like you said, next thing you know, 6 weeks have gone by and you're like, I forgot I wanted this. I forgot I wanted to make this happen.
That you can forget that you wanted something.
And I love, like you said, it's a physical representation. It's that reminder there to make sure that why are we going to work every day? Why are we helping our kids with school? Why do we, why are we doing this thing called life? Like it's something to look forward to. It's something to work towards and keep that dream in mind.
So, I mean, when I say use a vision board, really the only way you need to use a vision board is to look at it. Like, just
wow.
That's a first step, right? I mean, you can do more things than that, but step one is create it. Step 2, look at it. Like, just look at it every day. So I had my vision board tucked away, but what I'll also say is there were things on it that no longer spoke to me. So I ripped them off. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see like little barren corners that you can tell I ripped things off of. I think that I had created something that wasn't entirely my goals or my dreams. And so now I'm just adding things and recreating things. So I have already added a lot of things to it, but it's hard to find magazines right now. But the other thing that I just want to say is it's fun. It's actually fun to create a vision board, and you can do it with other people. You could have a vision board party. You could do a virtual vision board party. Like all you'd need is just a few things to be able to pull that off, right? It's creative. So it gets you to look for cool pictures and words that embody your outcome. So it's a creativity, which uses another part of your brain. And it engages, I just wanted to say it engages your mind because you're thinking about your outcome, what you want, your body, you're physically cutting things out, taping them, maybe taking them off, designing it, and your spirit. It speaks to your spirit, right? What were you going to say, Tracy?
Well, I loved everything you just shared, so I'm glad you kept going. It really, I mean, that just prompted me. It's a mind, body, soul experience, aren't those what our dreams and visions for life really are? It's about your mind, body, soul. But then I love that, you brought up, you could have a vision board party with friends virtually together, but what a great way to also make it then social. And then it's also, going to be an emotional experience too. So, you just have all these facets and, what it means to be human, the overarching human experience. And you're just creating that tangible representation of it. Like what a way to just fully embody what it is you want, to just be really intentional with how you want to show up in the world and what you want to create, which we keep talking about. So
right.
I'm excited. So good. I kind of want to go back a step though.
Yeah,
so I keep talking about, vision for your life. And that's going to stress myself out. So I don't know why I keep talking in really big terms. I don't know what I want. So please, I'm so sorry if I'm giving you also a panic attack, but I mean, it could be a 3-week vision. It could be a 1 year, a quarter, right? Like it doesn't have to be a vision for life. It could be a vision for anything.
Hey, you know what? I was going to bring this up later, but I'm just going to bring it up right now. It doesn't have to be this size. Look what I made.
That's almost 3 feet tall, right?
Yeah. This is a 3x5 card for those of you that are listening. It's an index card. And I just pulled out things: go wild, be kind, be you, be happy, be strong.
What an easy thing to keep on the fridge or by your computer.
Exactly.
On your nightstand.
It could be one word. It could be on your bulletin board. So it doesn't have to be this art project, even though for me, the art project fills my soul with joy.
Yeah.
But you're right. It could just be a 3-month thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to dive into then, let's say you are going to do a physical board of whatever size. What types of mediums could you use, tools, resources?
Well, obviously, old magazines. The only thing is it is really hard to find old magazines right now. You can't even go to a Goodwill and find magazines anymore.
Because we're all vision boarding, Amy. We have
all
all this
vision boarding. So do you know what I did? I started looking at like the free publications that are still out and about. You can get
your local library will have those near the doorway.
They might.
Grocery stores.
They might not right now.
Oh, sure.
Because people are freaked out about everything right now. But you can probably find them somewhere. Old calendars. You know how some old inspirational, your last year's calendar, if you haven't gotten rid of it yet, save those, the words, the photos, whatever speaks to you. Let's see, what else? Newsletters, catalogs. I found like a Demco catalog for kids. That's where I got most of these things, honestly. So things like, it says delightful, exploration and discovery, encourage creation. Of course, that came from a kid's thing. But you can also, and of course you need, scissors, glue, tape, that kind of stuff. But you could also take a photo. Like you could go to the dealership. If your desire is to have a brand new car, you could go to the dealership, take a selfie with you and the, Beamer, whatever, and print that out. And that goes on your vision board. So it's up to you. I think you could be very creative. Honestly, if you have none of those things, if you've got a whiteboard, you and I were laughing about John Green's whiteboard vision board.
He just has words. He wrote like a pie chart and put different words in it. And I think he updates it every month. So like if he's achieved the thing, or it no longer fits, like you were talking about, you just erase it and write something else in. And
how easy is that?
It's kind of like a mind map of what goals he wants to achieve.
Mind map would be a perfect place to start too, if you're not sure where to start. And in fact, if you don't know where to start, you do want to have some kind of clear vision of what you are searching, like what is your desired outcome. So
I will say, when I've made my boards, that when I've gone through and looking for images, my vision expanded. Things were added. It grew bigger, and so just like the process of looking for things, like, I kind of went in with like, oh, I want these words or these letters or this is the goal. And then I went in and was like, oh no, don't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling. Like this is now the goal. Well, and it just became much more than I ever thought it could.
So here's why I love that. I think the universe would say to you, oh, no, my darling, don't be limited to this. Look at this beautiful expanse over here I can give you. So yes, I also love that idea. Maybe you have no idea what you want, but as you page through, you're like, this speaks to me. And then just run with that.
And now, so I've done boards for different areas of life. And then I have done like kind of a grand vision. Like I really want to transform who I am. We've talked about the brighten up and other things. And so when I was kind of clipping out for like that grand vision of life, there was just a picture of an acoustic guitar. And I was like, Tracy, it's been on your, like to-do list or your New Year's resolution or whatever. to relearn, pick up the guitar again. Like, let's clip this out. Let's cut this little guitar and put it on the board. Like, it's a small piece of the bigger puzzle of my life, but it was a great reminder, like, hey, carve time in your day for this.
You weren't specifically looking for a picture of a guitar. You just happened to see it.
I didn't even have the guitar in mind. It was the process of finding the images kind of reinforce that idea that you're saying, that it's this physical representation, this reminder. All you have to do is look at your board. And I was looking for images, and that prompted me to remember, like, hey, you have this littler goal, like, and you've really wanted this, like, let's put this on your board.
Well, and I want to go back to the thing that you said about, I have done boards for specific parts of my life, because you could be that specific, or maybe your board is a pie chart and you're like, here's my spiritual aspect, here's my career aspect, here's my house aspect.
I love that. I do the level 10 life, where you break your life out. And what a great way to just, both kind of map out like where you are in your desired end state, and then have those images to represent it.
So you can go as deep or as shallow as you want with this. You can be specific and know exactly what you're looking for, or you can be open to the universe saying, hey, look at this thing. Because honestly, when I was adding to this, I knew I didn't have Oprah magazine where you can find everything you'd ever need for your vision board, right? I had these weird little newsletters and things like that, but words popped out at me and images popped out. And then all of a sudden I thought in my head, hey, I have that old map, not super old, not cool old, just like weird old. And I cut that out, and it's the world. And I put that up because I want to travel. And so that was a representation of traveling.
But then also, like, let's say you didn't have that map, but you had an advertisement for luggage.
100%.
Right? There's so many other ways you could get there. You could, let's say you don't find the word that you're looking for, you can cut it out ransom letter style and make it your own. You really can make it happen. But, you keep bringing up, resources might be hard to come by. People, we're so digitally driven these days. So recently I've been seeing people online share that they find the exact image they're looking through on, Google image search, and they find, they create this collage. That like Microsoft Paint doesn't really exist in the world, but there are free versions of similar things. So you could use Word, PowerPoint, whatever. But so they create this collage, and then they make it the background on their computer, their phone, their iPad, their tablet, whatever they're using. And then that way, anytime they use that device, they see those images, they're reminded. And it can be words, like you've been saying, it can be images, but that's where the career one comes in for me. That, especially in today, where I can really control what part of my desktop I'm displaying if I am presenting.
So are you going to do a digital one?
I think I am, for at least career, because it's so easy for career, especially to get caught up in the tasks and the to-dos and the things that are needed and lose sight of the bigger picture. That's where I really get stuck in the day-to-day, is just that, if you follow Stephen Covey at all, like that Q1 quadrant of just, not necessarily an emergency, but always just responding to the needs of others or whatever is in your face. And so I think the idea of a digital one for work is great, because it's really easy for me to ignore a Post-it that's always on my computer monitor, or it's covered by other reminders on Post-its,
Right. And it feels like if your blind spot was not looking at it every day, what a great way to look at it every day, at least Monday through Friday, right?
Well, and even just, and just to go back to the digital thing, like, let's say you're not savvy enough or don't want to invest the time in creating your own collage and saving it, use Pinterest. Pinterest was made for this.
Right.
It's an online bulletin board. It's literally to pin things. So if you don't have a physical way, you don't want to do it, you can do that. But then you have to think
of how many vision boards you already have on Pinterest.
Vision boards, sub vision boards, it goes deep. It's pretty Inception level there.
But then the whole thing with Pinterest, and I'm 100% guilty, is, I'm going to pin this, I'm going to pin that, and I'm going to pin this, and I'm never going to look at it again.
So I say, if you do choose the Pinterest route, make it your homepage. Bookmark it and find a way to make it your homepage. And then it's also one where you really have to curate it, so you're not going 100 pins deep. That's one, if you are using Pinterest, you got to pick to what you're willing to scroll through to get your reminders out of it.
Let's say that one again. You have to pick to what you're willing to scroll through.
I mean, with everything,
find it. Yes.
You got to curate your life, so you got to curate this board. And there's, if you go the digital route, you're going to have an endless supply of images. So that's one where you'll have to watch yourself where you don't get lost in the process and you make sure that you finish. And that when it's done, that it's what you want, and constantly update it and curate it. That's fine. But don't spend a day pinning 95 things and then get overwhelmed by what you did.
Completely overwhelmed. And then you never look at it again.
You keep bringing up, it can be words. So I think this really goes back to the affirmation episode that you did a couple back, where you can make your affirmation your background on your phone. There's so many free apps for, creating quotes and texts and things like that. And like your core affirmation, the thing you really want, that's a great reminder. You can put it on your vision board. What a great place to start. If you're not sure where to start, but you did your affirmations a few weeks ago, include it, put it up there.
That's perfect, Tracy. I love that. I think that I may have accidentally done that with my board, not put up affirmations, but many of the words and images evoke the affirmations that I say. And I don't know if that's just because that's what I want my life to embody, that then naturally that's what I was drawn to for the words and pictures. But what a great place to start. So even if you've only done 3 affirmations, start there.
Yeah. And whether or not you've done the affirmations, crafting your vision is really about, the 4 W's plus an H, or do they still call it the 5 W's and they get in there? But, who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? How do you want to feel? What do you want? And when do you want it to happen? I wouldn't put, September 16th, 2021, time is an illusion. It's a social construct. It's not linear. But at the same time, if you know that you want something by a certain time or time range, having it somewhat time bound in your mind as well. And then that also helps you not get overwhelmed. If you're kind of aware, like this is the 10-year part of the goal, this is the here and now part of the goal.
Right. I think it's okay to have somewhat of a time limit on things. Otherwise, you're never going to get anything done. So you have to have some kind of a time frame, but I would agree with you. Don't be quite so tied to a specific date unless say you're doing something that has a specific due date, then go ahead and go by that due date. Yeah.
So we've talked about, creating that vision, and having a visual representation of it. You mentioned sit down and look at it every day. What's kind of the exercise with that?
Oh, that's a good question, because I had not thought of anything like that. But I will tell you what I did the other day with my vision board. And it's a literal exercise. I thought to myself, why don't I just bring it with me as I'm doing things? Not all over the house, but I wanted to get on the elliptical. So I just brought it with me over by the elliptical. And as I was working out and listening to podcasts, I would just look over at the board and read the words, stare at the photos. So I feel like that might be a really good literal exercise to do with a vision board, because you're creating a feel good, your endorphins are getting out there.
I love that.
Yeah. And also,
what else are you going to be looking at?
What else are you going to be looking at?
What a great way to stay motivated while on, indoors, doing your movement for the day, like to look at that bigger dream, that bigger picture. And especially if you have some sort of physical goal, wanting to run a marathon, wanting to achieve certain, numbers related to your health, lower your blood pressure.
Definitely.
Stuff like
then. Yes.
Then what a great reminder and, just validation for what you're doing, that you have that reminder there.
Yeah. The other thing I would take it with me when I, have my morning cup of coffee and I'm not looking at my phone. It's just right there in front of me and I'm sipping my coffee and contemplating the board. So those are 2 really easy things you can do. I mean, you could meditate with the board, but honestly, just having it by you, It's right behind me right now. And I can read words backwards. So I'm good. It's not how I work. It's usually on the other side of the desk, but I did realize that I needed to bring it with me more often and look at it. So I have my coffee in front of it and exercise now with it.
And I kind of like, like you said, you have it there at work or you have it there with you. If you're having a hard day, getting going, getting started, or you're just having a bad day in general, what a great centering exercise. Just turn around, take a deep breath, and just look at the bigger picture. And like, what's, let's
the literal bigger picture.
But like, let's say, especially, right now, we have seasonal depression, we have isolation depression, all this stuff, dreaming bigger for this year for some people doesn't seem attainable because we don't know when we can travel again safely or things like that. Like, what a way to be like, okay, what can I do today to lead me to this? Like, what's one little thing? Like, so if you're feeling overwhelmed or whatever, just look at your board and be like, oh, I can go and do this. I just kind of center, take a breath, and then get back on, with the work.
There are some things on my board that are not huge dreams, right? It might be one word that just says spirit. And for me, then that is very much centering. And I can just say, okay, just maybe it's time just to go within for a little bit and just be gentle with it. And don't try and, take over the world the first day. I mean, go ahead if you want to, but
some people are more ambitious than others. Yeah. It's not in my top 5 strengths, but I bet they're out there.
Well, maybe after the spring equinox, it will be.
There we go. So it seems like something with the vision board, though, can also lead to what else we wanted to talk today, which is visualization exercises.
And I didn't want to lead with visualization because, like I said before, it can be daunting when you think about visualizing. I don't know why it seems daunting. It's just a curated daydream is basically what it is.
But some people, I mean, you mentioned, when we're children, we imagine all the time we're probably doing visualization all the time and not realizing it. How many people have gotten away from that? How many people actually do intentionally use their imagination for more than their mind wandering. So it might be daunting because your imagination is a muscle that you need to strengthen. And like you're talking about, you can get lost in it. So the visualization aspect is just a more disciplined version of imagination.
It is. And that can be daunting. You're right. Because then it seems more like meditation. And I know that can be tough too. But the first thing that I want to share is full transparency. Once again, I actually love the idea of visualization. I have been and long to embody it and integrate it into my life, but I've yet to make it a daily practice. Even my short ones that I'll share later, even those sometimes fall off, but the long visualization, I know people say this is key. It's key to, creating the life you want. It's key to all these things. For whatever reason, I'm just not there yet. I don't know why, but you know what? She who needs to learn teaches, right?
There you go. And I mean, I will say I have imagination daydreams locked down. I do that so well. So full transparency for me, I need to rein it in. And I think where I get overwhelmed is I don't have a 5-year goal. I don't even really have a 1-year goal. I like to stay pretty fluid in life. I have really kind of broad things. I know more about what I don't want in life than what I do, but there's some kind of bigger life choices that I still have time to make. And I get overwhelmed when I'm like, ooh, visualize this over this. Like, I don't want to pick yet because I don't feel like I'm there yet. I don't feel like I'm at that point. But there's other ways I could use visualization to achieve the smaller goals.
Yes, there is.
But yeah, I mean, that whole 5-year thing, I don't know. It makes my heart palpitate. I'm getting sweaty.
Honestly, I'm going to jump ahead because maybe a guided visualization would be better for you then, because then you don't have to choose, but...
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let's actually go back. So you were talking to me earlier. It's essentially a mental dress rehearsal, right? For whatever it is you want.
It is. It's a mental rehearsal. So for whatever it is you want, think about See, it's like you're creating your own movie, right? And it's obviously it's not a 2-hour movie. It's a series of scenes connected, okay, starring you with your desired outcome. However, you want to be kind of detailed with it. You do want to get into, this is where it gets so tricky, Tracy, because you want certain details and then you want to leave other details out because you can't get stuck in like the hows and the who's necessarily. But the first thing I want to get into is why. Like, why even visualize? Why is it such a big deal? Why do so many people talk about visualization? If you think about like big time people in the self-help industry will always talk about visualization. So why? So visualization is sort of like a mega affirmation, right? It really kickstarts your subconscious into believing the outcome because you are going through the whole, like, this is what is happening and you are feeling it and everything. Plus it puts your mind to work. Your mind says, oh, okay, this is happening. How are we getting this to happen? Like, it literally is like, it's like what you talked about with the cool questions you ask yourself, like how is it that I have so many friends?
Before bed, you're just like, oh, why do I have so much fun in my life? And then you go to sleep and you let your brain figure that out.
Your mind will go to work on that. Your mind's like, hey, we got to get this going because it's actually happening and we have to be ready for it. Okay. It raises your frequency. And we know frequency attracts like frequency. So if your frequency is raised to the height of this outcome, there is nothing else that can happen but you attract it to yourself.
It's kind of like what you're talking about with affirmations, that you have to believe it as though it's happened.
Yes.
That it's not, you're not looking at yourself in the struggle, daydreaming of better days, that you are imagining this desired end state. You're feeling how you want to feel. And then you're kind of filling in those pieces of what are the players, where are we at, how do I get there?
And sometimes it goes even beyond that, because sometimes your visualization is after you've reached the end state. It's like,
it keeps going.
And then, you're like that part of the movie that you never get to see, right?
It's like, it's not that fairy tale happily ever after. You get to live and feel what that happily ever after is.
Exactly.
It's not end scene roll credits. It keeps going. I love it.
It does keep going. And like we said before, all kinds of successful people use this. Elite athletes have been using this, as far as I know, since the 60s. Like, Russian athletes were using this mental rehearsal in the 60s. And I shockingly was first introduced to visualization as a kid by my mom.
Surprise.
We didn't know it. See, we didn't even know it was happening. But my sister, okay, so let's see if I can get this right. My sister had to run some kind of a race, like in 2 days or something. And she was really nervous about it because she didn't feel like she was a good enough runner and she wasn't fast. So not only did my mom, and I think my dad too, we went outside and like they timed her running the actual, what it would have been. And then my mom had her not run, but go inside, close her eyes. And she guided her through this visualization of like the gun going off and her starting the race and running and the people next to her and her getting past the people next to her and then turning the corner and coming back around. And then she hits she's at the end and it's success. And she did that a couple times. And then my mom would actually time. So then they'd start the race in her mind. And then she'd say, I'm done. And they'd time it. And then she'd run the actual race again. It was fascinating.
I just had an epiphany. So
what?
Visualizations not only help you get to that frequency, and help you see what's there and keep you motivated. But for something like that, you can practice running, you can practice, you can go to your training camps, all this stuff. Race day the conditions are nothing like what you can ever prepare for. You could have thousands of people watching you. That's intense. And especially for a kid. And so to go through that exercise, like her expectations are so better managed, like even just visualizing the gun, thinking about people running next to you, like she's already in that headspace of what the day of will be. So it's not even just like picturing like, oh, I can win, but like it's getting her there so that when she shows up on that day, she's not having to take in all this new sensory input. Her brain has already kind of started considering what that day will be like.
Yes.
I think that's pretty amazing because for me, for visualization, I've done it and I didn't know that that's what I was doing. So I don't think any, like I said, I have no problem daydreaming, but a little bit of a not so humble brag. I have been offered every single job I have ever interviewed for. That is not to say I have been asked to interview for every job I've applied for. That is much different. And I've changed jobs quite a bit, typically every 2 to 3 years, and much different organizations and no networking. Some of it has been, but I think part of my success is I visualize the entire process from me getting ready to me in the parking lot, what I'm going to do there, to when I'm in the lobby, to then when I'm meeting them, answering their questions. It's that mental dress rehearsal. And so some of it, people might call it practice too, but I'm visualizing it. I don't have any of my prompts in front of me, any of my notes, or, I do treat job interviews very well. So somebody could make an argument. It's not just that, but I visualize what I would feel like to be in the room to the point where when I'm in there with them, I'm not nervous. I'm having a conversation with somebody I've already talked to 1,000 times in my head.
That's brilliant, Tracy.
And then our relationship in there, it's a different frequency. It's a different vibe. And so the library especially comes to mind because I interviewed with 4 women who I ended up working incredibly closely with afterwards. So when I started, they gave me unprompted feedback about that day. And one of the people that ended up in that room, we became really good friends and we still talk about it, that there was just this energy in there. And I was like, Shira, I knew before I walked in that room, I had that job. I visualized it that far in the process. I visualized myself being offered. I visualized the negotiation process for salary. And I visualized giving my 2-week notice to a job I did not want to be at anymore. And I just kept thinking about it. And it's worked so far. And I never thought of it as visualizing. To me, it was just always, I don't apply for jobs I don't really, really want. And so to me, it's also kind of part of my manifestation process probably too. But I picture all of it. I picture, like you said, your first day walking in. It got to a point when I walked in there and the woman who I ended up supporting or working the most closely with, we felt like good friends in the hall. We had maybe like a 50-foot walk from the lobby to that conference room. By the time we got in there, like the other 3, it was just like, oh, wow, do you guys know each other? Like we were already just in that space. And it wasn't the awkward, getting to know you icebreaker questiony stuff. And every question they asked me, I was ready for it. Even if it was one that I didn't practice in my head, I was just ready for the whole thing and for it to go well. And now that I'm hearing this, I was like, oh, I've been visualizing my entire life.
Exactly. And I think that what you just described now shows the listeners or tells the listeners that this shit works.
Yeah. Okay? And I will say, like you said, you can't, let's say it doesn't work or an aspect of it isn't exactly what you visualized. It goes back to that rejection is protection. So maybe you were a little too specific, or maybe your visualization, maybe your desired outcome and your visualization is, I don't want to work anymore at this job. Maybe you were just visualizing the wrong place, so don't get discouraged if your visualization doesn't come true. Tweak it like everything else. And also, I think you mentioned too, where I talk about vision boarding for different areas of my life. I can't visualize Gerard Butler and Jeremy Renner into my life. It's kind of like tarot card readings and anything else that we talk about, that we are all responsible for ourselves, right?
Yes. And you and I talked about this earlier as well. You can visualize Gerard Butler very happy, but you can't visualize him happy with you.
I mean, I can be really ready for when we one day meet.
Exactly.
But would my time be better spent visualizing the desired relationship and the type of man that I want? Because let's also be honest, I don't know him in real life. He's probably not like what I'm thinking he is. So wouldn't it be better to visualize the type of man I do want in my life, and maybe not get specifics about hair color and eye color and height and all that stuff,
right.
but how he makes me feel?
Yes, the details can be in the other things, of maybe about you, about the room you're in, something like that. The details can be, you just hit on it, how he makes you feel. So the emotions are everything. When you're visualizing, it's not like when you're meditating and you're in this quiet space and things are moving in and out of, your inner vision. When you're visualizing, it is absolutely fine to be smiling, to pump your fists, to, like, if you're visualizing driving a new car, you can be a little kid pretending to be driving your new car. Yes, close your eyes so that you can have that scene running in front of, your eyeballs, but you can be creating movement and things like that. So yes, details are important, but not the details of the who's or the how's, right?
I will say the detail of who you are in the vision is important.
That's different. Yes.
Because I want to say, make sure you are visualizing who you are now. Don't visualize that perfect person or how you wished you look. Like maybe, if you do have a fitness goal or something like that, you can kind of visualize that desired end state, but make sure you're visualizing who you are now so that the right person is getting what you're visualizing and what you're seeing.
Well, and remember too, when you're visualizing, it should be coming out. You should be seeing the scene through your eyes.
That was going to be my next question.
Yourself.
It's not like you're watching TV. It's like you are experiencing this.
You are in the TV show.
And I think that's the biggest difference for me as I kind of picture a daydream imagination versus a visualization, is that the things that I visualize, it's me doing and being, and the things I imagine is me watching and me, just kind of experiencing.
That's a really good description.
A movie or TV show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good description, and that can maybe help people keep those separate.
Yeah. So are there other stumbling blocks that can come up then?
Oh, well, I feel like we actually already talked about them, but
some of the ones that come up for me or the main one is I did this year at end of December, early January, I got really motivated. I found an old stack of magazines I've been saving that I just wanted to make sure I read. And I just ended up going through and just cutting different things out and just had a really great day. Just had a movie on, had a drink, and just clip, made a little pile, dreamed really big, stuck it in a file folder, and then forgot about it because I got really embarrassed about some people seeing, some of the things that I wanted or on my, so an aspect of kind of shame and embarrassment, or not ready to share the world, or where do I put it in the house? Because it's a physical representation of what I want. And I live alone. We're in the middle of a pandemic and I am socially and physically isolating and distancing myself. And I still was like, oh my, what if someone sees this? And I was like, I don't want to make it and put it in the closet because I don't want to hide my dreams in the closet. But what good does it do for them to be in a folder that I'm not looking at?
So what are you going to do?
Well, after this, I loved seeing your board behind you in your office, so I might just do it. And I honestly, I don't know any in my life that would come in and be like, "Oh God, Tracy, you want to have a happy life and a family and like travel and feel freedom." Like, boo! Like, nobody I know would do that. They would all be like,
and if you do know someone who would do that,
out of my house, out of my life, bye-bye. Here's a podcast to listen to become a better, brighter person.
Yeah. But I think that's a really good point.
It's a block.
That honestly, if here we are wanting to have, better, brighter lives, maybe not better. I mean, I feel like my life is great. But yes, would I want it elevated? Of course. Would I want to be doing even more things? Of course. Yes. And so why should we feel embarrassed about that? But we do. It's like the affirmations. I used to feel embarrassed. It was like, what if somebody hears me saying these affirmations? Well, what if someone does? Honestly,
exactly.
We are so funny. Yes.
It's so yeah. And I have to wonder if anybody listening who, lives with a significant other, maybe it's a new relationship, or maybe they have kids or teenagers. Oh, God forbid, a teenager. Like, aren't they
Actually,
scary?
the funny, sneaky thing is to get the teenager to do one of their own
with you
somehow.
I like think, that. Or maybe even, now that I think about it, creating a family one or a relationship one together, even if it's just on a whiteboard.
Absolutely do that. Yes. I think that that's a wonderful thing for a family to do together. And what a great,
to have a shared vision.
Yes. What a great thing to do right now during a pandemic where it's like, you can't do anything anyway. So why not?
It's also a great way to talk about and share, not necessarily an accountability partner, because that sounds very corporate, but a way to have a supportive presence there for you, to be your cheerleader, to, okay, every morning, at breakfast, we talk about our goals, or we all look at our vision board, or we talk about how it's changed. And, there's Tracy, so many things.
Maybe when we can finally see each other in real life, we'll do a Brightly vision board together.
Ooh, I like that. I think I threw away those magazines. We're going to have to start collecting again.
But just to kind of get it back around to the visualization, I did want to get into a little bit, because there are different visualizations you can do. They're not all, like this 5-minute movie reel or 10-minute movie reel that you have to do. There are shorter visualizations you can do. And actually, I do one, and I also sort of never really thought of it as a visualization, air quotes there, but it absolutely is. Actually, I have two. The first one I do, and I do this one the most. This one I'm the best at because it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with my children and my granddaughter, is I visualize each individual child, and then I visualize a white light surrounding them. And that's just their protection for the day. Aww. So I protect each child and my granddaughter. I just visualize that white light that protects them throughout the day. Then I started to share with you, and you made me stop before we started recording, but I have this other fun visualization, and I did not make this up. I can't remember where I got it from. I'll try and find that out. But when I wake up in the morning, before I get out of bed, I close my eyes and I visualize each organ with a happy smiley face. So I start at my brain, and there's my brain with a great big smile. And this is like, these organs are like happy and smiling, and not like, they're like cartoon organs. That's how I see them. So I start at my brain, and you could get super specific, like pituitary and all kinds of things. But if I do that, then all of a sudden I'm off somewhere else. So I start at my brain, and then, like I go to my lungs, and each lung gets their own smiley face, and my heart gets a smiley face, and everybody's happy with each other. Like they're smiling at each other. And I just work my way down, and then I wake up.
I mean, if you're not watching this on YouTube, we both have the biggest, dumbest grins on our face right now. So at the very least, what an amazing way to start your morning. Just being stupid happy, just stupid, silly happy. Just like
thinking about your organs,
jump out of bed. My pituitary gland is excited to be here. My brain is happy in here and ready to go.
Everybody's working together.
What a great way to, full and happy heart.
Right. And so it's a wonderful way to wake up. And that typically only takes, gosh, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 seconds. It doesn't take a long time.
I mean, in addition, like it's also a great way to get grounded in your body too. And to just kind of breathe and be present. And how many of us just jump out of bed without checking in first?
Right. So then there's the 5-minute visualization, and that's, the visualization of your desired outcome. And we talked about like the first day, maybe traveling somewhere. And then I mentioned guided visualization only because it helps me the most to do a guided visualization. So someone else is in control, and I'm listening to them, and it just keeps me more focused. I don't go off and random tangents and all of a sudden I'm, visualizing something else. The only difficulty or con with a guided visualization is that it might not be necessarily your fully desired outcome. Like maybe they're doing a travel visualization, which I did today. So I did a guided visualization today and it was on travel. So I'm in my place and, my eyes are closed and he's talking through, here's what's happening. And he's very detailed, like you're in your PJs that the stewardess gave you. And so clearly you're in this like luxurious air, this plane. And you're on your way to Nairobi, he says. And at first I was like, Nairobi? I'm going to France. What are you talking about? Why would I go to Nairobi? And so it pulled me.
I've never heard anybody be like, Nairobi, it's a great travel destination, but that's people usually Paris, London, Tokyo.
I know. So it pulled me out. And at first I was like, well, just pretend it's France. And then I said, calm down. What if it were Nairobi? And so I got back into it. And then he continued with the visualization and the photographic safari and staying in the tent camp and visiting the children. And all of a sudden, I'm crying. I have actual tears. I am feeling joy throughout my whole body. And I am now done with this visualization. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go to Nairobi. So no matter what, even if I ended up saying that was beautiful, I don't want to go to Nairobi, either way, just think of where my vibration was when I started and where it was when I ended, that I was filled with joy, tears of joy coming out of my eyes. I mean, that is strong. It
sounds so powerful, but
yes.
I think it's important to note, at the beginning, you were telling yourself shoulds and shouldn'ts. And I think part of this whole visualization process, both when you are coming up with the vision, if you're making a board, if you're kind of crafting, directing this vision that you're going to do for 2 minutes every day, is trust your intuition, trust what comes up, listen to your inner voice. There is no should or shouldn't. There is, maybe you're visualizing this dream job and in your head instead, what you're actually picturing is being an EMT somewhere. Pay attention to that. Like that might be your voice being like, hey, maybe you don't need to be going for that PhD, in XYZ. Maybe you don't need to be living this corporate life. Maybe you want to go work on a farm somewhere, so as you're visualizing, pay attention to the things that come in.
Yeah, that reminds me of what we were talking about earlier with the vision board. And you said, sometimes I just look through it. I don't know what the vision is, but as I'm looking through it, things pop out at me. And that's listening to your intuition. That's listening to your inner voice. So I love that you tied that together.
Yeah, trust. I mean, this is your life that you're picturing. Mm-hmm. If you're finding you have to force it, it might be time to revisit the why. It might be time to let that dream go, let it become something else. Yes. And pay attention to the signs that are around you and stop interpreting them in a way that, is a little bit biased towards what you think you should have, what you think you should be dreaming or doing or wanting. And instead getting really into that, what will light you up?
What will light you up? I think sometimes we have to look a little deeper too and make sure that the dream that you think is your dream is actually your dream and not someone else's dream, that either you've attached to yourself or for whatever reason. So often I think that we have absorbed other people's dreams and made them our own. And we don't even realize it. Like with the things that have been ripped off of my vision board, I think some of those things were not my dreams. I think that they just got plastered on. And now I have space for something better to come in. I haven't filled it yet, but I've got space for something better to come in.
I love that. I have space for something better to come in.
Well, so and that sort of goes to what?
Oh, I was gonna say, what do you got?
Sorry. Honestly, start small. Start with baby steps. Maybe you start with the vision board. Maybe you want to try visualization. Do a real short visualization or find find a free guided visualization that's short. Just be gentle with yourself, because if you try to go in, head first, then you might go, this is too much for me and I don't want to do it anymore. So as always, I think we're always saying baby steps first.
Yeah.
Also, just maybe have a little bit of a clear visual, like what you really do want, and try to create some space for it. I'm going to try and create more space for visualizing. And you know what? If you maybe do it like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's okay too.
Yeah.
If you do it one day a week, that's okay.
I will say it's probably going to be most powerful and reflective for you to just sit down and do it on its own, whether it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes. You can do it while you brush your teeth. You can do it while you curl your hair, while you're getting ready, while you're stretching, while you're working out. If you're in a safe space, not driving, and able to use your mind to picture something, you can do it while doing other mundane things. So you might not need to find a way to carve out time. Maybe what you do first is make sure you're working on what that vision is and what that 2 minute, experience you're going to have in your head every day that you do this is going to be, what it's going to look like. And then just start finding places to do it.
And Tracy, that's a really good idea, because if say someone started doing it when they brush their teeth, then every time when they brush their teeth, that's a little trigger for them to start visualizing.
Yeah. And I sure hope we're brushing our teeth twice a day, every day. If you're not, start carving time out for that first. We're not yet sponsored by the American Dental Association, but I may have just found our plug. So I will say with that, you said to start small. So for me, I had a hard day, and I can't even say getting out of bed. I fell asleep on the couch last night. So I did not start my morning where I wanted to start it. Just kind of feeling like, oh, I didn't brush my teeth. I fell asleep watching TV, and was just kind of having a hard time getting going. Here in Minnesota, it's cloudy and gray. It's really, really dark in the morning. It was really snowy yesterday. And I was just really feeling like the social isolation of the past few months. And I could have just sat there and continued scrolling TikTok. And instead, I just kind of prompted myself, like, is what we're doing right now in line with our higher vision? Is this what we want for our life? Does this get us there? If it does, great, fine, keep going. Instead, I immediately stood up and I went downstairs and I went for a walk on my treadmill. And my treadmill and the walk itself has absolutely nothing to do with my goals, but my overarching goal does not include me staying on the couch all day. It was that seed. It planted that seed of just movement in me of just get up. Like we don't have to do the big goal today, Tracy. We don't have to do some monumental thing, but sitting around on the couch is not going to get us there. We're not going to mentally or physically or emotionally feel in that space. And so by getting on the treadmill, that got my blood moving, it got my body moving, it got me ready for other things. And then I was able to start my day and achieve some other goals and just start doing little things. And so that small visualization, it was like a 30-second, just image of like that desired end state and feeling like you were talking about. There's no way I was going to achieve that if I just laid around all day. And
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So I the feedback we get for a lot of the things we share on the show is how brave we are. And you and I talked about after the other show, it's really easy to be brave when we're talking about past Amy and past Tracy, because we've been through it. We lived through it. And as we said, we got to today. And so I just want to share, like right now, like you said earlier, we're not perfect with this, and we're just trying to find space, and we're just trying to find ways to feel brighter, to brighten other people up. And like, this is such a small thing you can do now. It doesn't even require, like, you don't even have to do the thing. You just have to visualize that you're doing the thing.
That's what so I love. Easy. You don't even have to do the thing.
You don't even have to do the thing. And it can still create momentum in your life. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing such an easy tool to use to connect to who you are, how you want to feel, what you want to do, how you want to show up in the world.
And here's to using the easy tools, right? Here's to using the easy tools. So exactly. I did pull a tarot card for
I love it. Was it in line with what we've talked about?
Well, here's the thing. When I first saw it, I wanted to immediately pull a different tarot card, but that's cheating.
Not only is that cheating, but ain't that the biggest sign? It's the card you were meant to get.
It's the card you're meant to get. So just so if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the picture of it. It's the King of Swords.
So it's kind of a king sitting in a stately throne, holding a sword, caped.
Very regal, yes.
And he looks very commanding and powerful.
He does look very commanding. The interesting thing about the King of Swords in the tarot deck is the King of Swords is the only king that looks directly at you.
Oh, interesting.
So that is very interesting. The other thing, so at first I was like, King of Swords, he looks mean, right? That's not really, like, that's not how I read tarot. I'm like, well, I mean, you got a mean king.
Amy, he's holding a weapon. I think that's a fair assessment. That's a fair initial. He's got a sword and he's staring directly into your soul. I might have a second of pause.
Yeah. So some things that did speak to me, kings tend to mean completion or demonstration. Swords swords can be like expectations, mind, speculation.
Well, yeah, they're air, mental energy, and these are mental exercises.
And one of the other great things with the King of Swords is the King of Swords shows using your thoughts creatively. I love that. Yes. So
That's
then
exactly
I went
what you just taught us to do.
Right. And then I went a little bit deeper. Okay, I'm getting blurry here. There are butterflies on his throne. And what is the most transformative thing you can think of?
A butterfly.
A butterfly. That's right. Then the other thing, I'm going to actually put it down now. I looked at his cloak. His cloak is a lavender purple, which of course that's vision, higher knowledge, psychic insight. It's so
that's your crown chakra, right? That's your connection to the divine.
Yes, exactly.
So whatever you believe in, that's your higher power, that higher source.
Right.
Purpose in life.
Yeah. And also, I mean, when you look at him as well, the blue expanse of sky, the clouds, there's two birds. So it ended up being, and I actually like that better when you pull a card that you don't initially think fits. And then you realize the longer you look at it or the more you contemplate on it, you're like, oh, it does fit. Sort of like my visualization to Nairobi.
I love that you brought that up because that's actually what I'm going to talk to everyone about in the next episode.
Yes. So, tell us about that.
So tarot it's a divination tool. So divination can be talking to your angels, your guardian angel, your God, your spirit guides, whatever you kind of want to call that connection to that greater, universe, that greater force in our lives. And so for me, a lot of people I know have hesitation or have had hesitation with tarot cards and other divination tools because it gets a bad rap for being related to the occult. Which no, everything you do in this world, it gets assigned the meaning that you attach to it. And so if you want to say you're talking to your guides or you're receiving message from spirit or your angels, perfect, use it. But you can also just use it as a tool for conversing with yourself. So let's say you can't afford therapy, you can't find one, you don't have the time for it, you don't feel comfortable, right now going to it. You can use some of these tools I'm going to cover to figure out what it is that you want, to figure out if you have a choice between X, Y, and Z, which one it is that you want. And part of why I love it is just what you talked about is sometimes getting the card I don't want tells me more about what I want because you get that immediate reaction. Well, why didn't I want it? Or what is it telling me? And no, I disagree with it and it is wrong. Oh, hey, universe, thanks for just making it very clear what I did want, So it's not that what the cards tell you is truth. It's about your relationship to the message. Who you want to attribute this message coming from, completely up to you. Yes. So I'm going to dive more into using divination tools or just these things for self-discovery. So for those times when you're like, does he love me? Or should I move? Should I get this job? What do I do in this world? Just anything you kind of think about. Why am I having a hard time right now? Those questions we talk about asking yourself before bed. There's so many different ways to use that as prompts to just have a conversation with yourself. In a meaningful, intentional way. So join us for, I believe it'll be episode 8, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was episode 7. Amazing.
Yeah. So with that, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. And especially if you've been with us since the start, this has been an amazing experience so far for us. If this episode or any of the others spoke to you or your soul, please share with a friend. And if you have time, please subscribe to us on wherever you listen to this podcast and give us some love with either a rate or a review. And then we're also on the social media, so YouTube, Instagram, things like that. You can also reach us via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you if you have ideas on future episodes or just how any of this has been resonating with you. So with that, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We hope you have a bright and beautiful day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.